Hello students, your instructor here, John Mandela with another screencast. This one, part of the Sans Serifs #1 group, and this is Copperplate Gothic. Not to be confused with any of the other Gothic typefaces. This is Copperplate Gothic. Now actually, if you look, you might think, hey, wait a minute, this isn't a Sans Serif, this is a Serif. They have tiny little spurs on there. And you're right, it technically is a Serif typeface because of that. However, I like to include it in the Sans Serifs for a few reasons, one of which the letter shapes are so much more like a sans serif than they are like any other kind of serif we've looked at. Even like slab serifs. This is very much like a sans serif typeface that just so happens to have little spurs on the end. Now some letters, like the G, they get kind of carried away and there's like spurs everywhere. Or on the end, you usually don't have that many spurs. The A, the flat top, just looking at 2 spurs on there and things like that. But I think of it as a sans serif typeface that has an older, more classic feel. Not necessarily a better feel, just an older, more classic feel. So again, the G, is a dead ringer, the N and the M with the multiple spurs everywhere. Another thing you'll notice is that there are no lowercase characters in this typeface. If I were to go to the glyphs, you would see that it would start with the capitals, as you become accustomed to, but then instead of lowercase letters, it has true small caps. And they're very nice. It's nice to have a typeface that has small caps, but it's awkward because there are no lowercase letters. And I think the reason why, well, I don't know entirely for sure, but I have to guess part of the reason why is because this wasn't meant for long reading, right? You're not going to set a book or a magazine or a blog in this. This might look good for the headline or the title, but this will not. It's not designed for long reading, and so because of that, lowercase letters have never been created. I don't think it would be very comfortable to even read it, even if there were lowercase letters, because those little spurs become rather annoying. So instead of aiding with reading, they actually become a hindrance to reading. Anyway, a very wide typeface. Notice the R and the B quite flattened out. The G and the C are not based on a perfect circle, more based on a little bit of an oval shape. The S is quite oval-like as well. Like I said, it makes little spurs everywhere. Now, if we look at it in use, you'll really see, get the feel for what Copperplate Gothic is all about. So here's Cake. If you know Cake's music, it's kind of this relaxed, slow rock / pop / hip hop influenced kind of music. And if you ever listen to Cake, you understand that this graphic, but especially this nameplate right here, just speaks to that kind of style, the kind of laid back classic, a quirky feel to it. So not this down here, this is not Copperplate, but this up here is the spurs on it. Another example, let's see if I can fit this in there. So I know that MGD has changed their graphics and their text and their logos for this product a number of times. Miller has, but at one point at least, the MGD was set in Copperplate. You can't really see it as well here, but you see the little spurs and actually outline goes around the spurs, and there's a shadow from the spurs and things like that. But again, it's all flat on top and bottom. The D is how oval-like the G is. Instead of being round, it's oval-like. Those little spurs everywhere. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spurs in the G. Extra spurs on top of the M. Other example, Ratatouille. So this is like a family-friendly example as opposed to the MGD one. And even though it has this like little line for a drop shadow, you still see it distinctly is Copperplate Gothic. Probably a bolder version, which is quite common. But see, even the bold version is just tiny little spurs that stick out. And notice, no lowercase letters. It's cap, small cap. The caps are pretty large, but they're almost as big as the capitals are. So, but that's an example of Copperplate Gothic right there. And another example, Golden State Warriors. They recently have a new logo for their team. It's kind of a retro influenced new style, blah blah blah. Anyway, to get that kind of classic feel, they went with Copperplate Gothic. I'm not a big fan of it, but you can see again, little spurs everywhere. The S is very wide. The O based more on an oval than it is in a circle. The G with extra spurs all over the place. And our last example is this one. This is just a little small business, travel medical clinic. I have no idea what that even means, but let's see. Even though it's got like a kind of a bronze outline around it, you can still see those little spurs. There's like the E, see it compensate for that, so it gets all chunky. And down here you can see it, and even like the numbers, the 4 has a bunch of spurs, and the 1 and 6 as well. And that's Copperplate Gothic.